guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Blown for Good. Today we're going to do a live with Mike Rinder.
Hi, everyone.
There's Mike and Claire Headley.
Hey, hello.
And Christie Colbran.
Hi, everybody.
Here, let's move us so there we go. We like that better. Just so we can keep all the good stuff on the bottom and the old stuff on the top. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us today, guys. This is sort of this is just an SPTV live stream. This is not really part of any series or anything that I'm doing on my channel or Mike's doing on his channel. But we wanted to talk about Marty Rathbun because for many, many years, he was a very trusted, very high level executive within Scientology. And then he escaped, and he actually escaped multiple times.
Three times.
He escaped 3 different times. And each of the first 2 times, he was what they call recovered and brought back. And then that last time he escaped, he sort of got way too far off the reservation for them to reel him back in. And and he started causing a lot of problems for Scientology. I'm pretty sure he was responsible for a great exodus of Scientology Sea Org members, staff members, and civilian Scientologists that were giving money to Scientology because they knew that what he was saying about Scientology was true. And so is that good enough backdrop? And we can kind of fill in the blanks as we go. But
well, I think that we should spend a little time explaining the significance of Marty to us and to Scientology because he was a really big deal. He was a really big deal in Scientology. I mean, he was basically, to all intents and purposes, David Miscavige's right-hand man and main enforcer for many, many years. Even, he left the Sea Org without authorization a couple of times. And as Mark mentioned, he was brought back by David Miscavige himself, flying to meet with him in a hotel in New Orleans or wherever it was that Marty had happened to end up. And he came back in disgrace, as anybody who had blown the Sea Org was always in disgrace. But he came back and ended up back in the same position each time. He ended up back as the Inspector General of RTC
after escaping.
Right.
Yes.
And I remember, despite the fact that it's a disqualification for Religious Technology Center, if you have escaped, you can no longer hold an executive position. But that was waived in Marty's case.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know which time it was that he escaped, but I want to say it was the time before he ended up going to the Free Winds with Greg Wilhare. Was that the first or second time he escaped?
I think that was number 2.
Okay, when he did that, I was being interrogated in one of these Religious Technology Center interrogation rooms. And the person who was interrogating me left, they had to go do something. And they were like, you need to wait here and I'll be back. And they said, I could be gone a half hour, could be gone an hour, but you leave. And I was like, okay, fine. Anyway, after they left, boredom sets in pretty quickly, especially when you're in the middle of an interrogation. And so I went through their shredding basket that was in the room, and I read all the RTC shredding that they had. And one of the things in there was it said Marty Rathbun, Greg Wilhare sabbatical, and it was that they're going to go on a sabbatical. And I'm like, didn't Marty just escape recently, and now he's going on sabbatical? And I didn't even know what sabbatical meant. I was like, I had to look it up.
They created a new term just for Marty.
Anyway, exactly. And then I was like, wait a minute. He went to the Free Winds to go training and get auditing after escaping, and then they brought him back. And so to me, that blew my mind. And then when I mentioned it to somebody, they were like, oh, that's the second time. or this happened before. And I was sort of like, what? It happened during the IRS handling in the early 90s.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
Like immediately afterwards, maybe a week, less than a week after the exemption was granted.
Yeah.
He just went, okay, I've had enough. I'm out of here.
Yeah. He's like, that was good. I did it. Now I'm out. Peace out.
Well, he started getting, I mean, look, nobody is excluded from the insanity of Miscavige. And Marty took a lot of abuse from
David Miscavige was telling him that he was a suppressive person.
Yes.
Right up until the day he escaped. That's, at least from what Marty told me, that was a huge reason for why he escaped. He's like, well, if I'm a suppressive, then I'm out.
I 100% believe that, Claire. I mean, that he did that basically to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, and though Marty was seen by a lot of people within the Sea Org and within Scientology as, you know, this guy who somehow managed to escape the wrath of Miscavige because they didn't see that part of it. They just saw him being the enforcer. So he was always the bad guy in their mind because he was carrying out the orders of Miscavige. He took a lot of shit. And I know because I was around him. Like, Marty and I were the two people that were around Miscavige the most when it came to external matters. When something was going on, a legal case, media flap, whatever it was that was happening, it was Marty and I pretty typically were the ones who were with Miscavige. And those things that came up were always priority. They were what Miscavige focused on. If there was an external situation, that was always given priority for him. And so I spent a lot of time with Marty, and I can't say that when I was in the Sea Org, I considered him a good friend. I don't think anybody was really friendly with Marty.
No,
he was not a friendly person.
No,
he had the RTC cold chrome steel thing down.
Yeah, and he also there. I don't think there was anybody at the base who was like, oh, he's not a big deal. Like if he comes, it was a
wherever he went, when he showed up at CCN, when he showed up at any other org. Everybody, he was like Miscavige in some ways, you know, there was just this godly, it's Marty Rathbun. Everyone treated him like he was the second in command to Miscavige. All the lowly Sea Org members worshipped him. If he came in and he carried a big stick, he had a very serious face, and we were all like, okay, oh shit, Marty Rathbun is here. That's who he was.
Yeah. And we did a thing in the shoot crew where we messed up a film, and when and as a result of that, there was an investigation of all of the people in the film unit, and Marty was the one
lead
running
investigator.
Yeah, he was the chief investigator, and there was a girl, and we told this in the Louis. I told this story in the Louis Theroux project, My Scientology film, or My Scientology movie. And but Marty was there was a young woman that was interrogating me, giving me a sec check, and her name was Laura Dolan, and she was sitting in the counselor's seat, and I was on the other side holding onto the cans of the e-meter, and Marty was standing behind her in the room with us. So if anyone in Scientology knows, when you get interrogated, it's just the counselor and you. But normally, if you're being interrogated by Religious Technology Center, they have a little earpiece in, and Marty would be talking to her in the earpiece, but he decided, we're going to skip to the good part on this one, and I'm just going to stand behind her. And in the room, he's like, ask him again, ask him again, ask him again. And I wouldn't admit to the thing that David Miscavige sent Marty down to make me admit to, because I didn't do it. And so then he goes, okay, we're going to take a break. And we walked out of the counseling room to this little back room that was right near there. And we were standing there and he goes, are you going to answer her question or one? I said, I've answered every single time. And just out of nowhere, he cold cocked me. We're standing right in front of each other. He punched me, boom, right in the face. And I stood there and I took it and I looked and I just kind of looked back up at him. I said, you can punch me another 50 times, but I'm not going to say things that didn't happen because somebody wants me to say that. And so that was sort of the end of it. And he was sort of like, but the best part was there was another girl that was standing there who was like the report back, like go run back up to David Miscavige and tell him what's happening. When Marty punched me, she started crying.
Wow.
That her name was Charlotte Geisler, Charlotte, whatever, Helt.
Charlotte Helt. Yeah.
Charlotte Helt.
And can I just say that's a normal human reaction?
It totally is.
Like this isn't supposed to be happening. Like people aren't supposed to be punching each other at church. You know what I mean? Like that's a normal human reaction. Like what the hell's going on? This guy just got punched in the face.
Yeah, not even at church. This is where everybody has committed to 1 billion years.
Right.
Like they have no life.
Anyway,
and
so
yet this is how we treat them.
That was one of my earliest experiences with Marty. Like, oh, this guy is not to be messed with. He doesn't play around.
Yeah.
When he's doing an investigation, it's going to come out the way he thinks it's supposed to come out. You know, that's the other thing. And whenever there's an investigation where David Miscavige is involved, the facts are already known by David Miscavige. He has already determined what the facts are, and everybody needs to fall into their place in the story and agree that that's the way it went down. And I was just like, I ain't doing it. I don't know what to tell you. We can keep going around in circles, but that was sort of the way Marty handled things internally. I'm not sure how he did it on the outside, but internally that was it was a Gestapo style investigation and handling. And there was a trail of destruction when one of these things happened, where people went to the RPF and a lot of times when Marty would come down, and do one of these investigations, in multiple occasions that I remember, people would escape during this thing. Like there's so much pressure being put on everybody that people will pop. And then usually the narrative would change because it's like, oh, well, now we know it was
now we know
guy.
who is. Now
we know what happened. And then everybody's like, whew, like when somebody escaped, everything bad that had happened for the prior 4 years or so would get, oh, that was the person who did this and they did that. And you just be like, that person didn't even have anything to do with half of those things. How did they end up being the who or the why for that?
Right. Yeah. I remember after Marty and I had left, the story that went around was we were responsible for crush regging.
Yeah.
I have never gotten $1 from anybody ever in my life in Scientology, and I don't think Marty had either. Nothing.
You just didn't work in that area of management in any way, shape, or form.
No. Any event. So I wanted to sort of set the stage, because I think everybody who is watching this knows that Marty had, turned tail and became an apologist again, or even an attacker of people like us ultimately. But I want to sort of establish what it took to get there, and perhaps a little more explanation of why it might have happened, why this might have occurred. And Christie and I were talking about it earlier, and Marty is or was a very significant person in the story of Scientology when he was in, and then when he got out.
Yeah.
Because when he got out, it was
huge.
That was huge. It was nothing to begin with. In fact, Scientology spread a word that Marty Rathbun had died.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
In fact, when Marty called me, I think it was 2009, I remember his opening statement was, "Hey, it's Marty. You may have heard I died." And I was like, What?
Yeah.
Well, we
I
we
did.
actually had a death certificate of a Marc C. Rathbun that lived in the area where they had said he went in
Yes.
Northern
No kidding.
California.
I'd
Yes.
never even heard that, Mark.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I had it. I tracked it down and I got an actual death certificate, and it was everything matched up, except I didn't know Marty well enough to know when he was born or any of that stuff. But I was like,
But
it
I
seems
knew
about
him well
the right
enough to know
age.
his middle initial was C, and
Right.
that his name was Mark with a K. So
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, if Marty hadn't left and hadn't spoken out and done what he did, a lot of people wouldn't be where they are today and wouldn't be out. So he was pivotal in my story. He was pivotal in me and my ex-husband, Chris, leaving. And Chris started speaking to Marty. That was the first person he started talking to. And then when I was brave enough to get on the phone with Marty, I knew I had crossed a line, and I knew that was the end of it for me. And I, that was in 2009. And that was when a lot of people were starting to talk to Marty, read his blog. He started a blog. He created a huge, huge movement, honestly, and changed the landscape of that whole time period of he's contributed a huge amount to the people leaving and everything that's happened now. And he went and did the newspaper. What was it called, Mike?
The truth
St. Pete
rundown.
Times.
Yeah,
St.
you
Pete
guys
Times.
all
Bay.
you guys were all involved in that, but Marty
Yep.
was one of the pivotal people that got it started. He went and met with Joe Childs and Tom Tobin and started to speak to them and said, "Hey, I want to talk. I want to speak. I'm finally ready." And then you guys all joined in, and then a whole bunch of other people joined in, and that was a huge tipping point for this whole entire movement. Like that back then there was nothing really happening. It was pretty quiet. And
Yeah.
Marty Rathbun was kind of the person that came in and did that, and it dramatically affected my life on a personal basis. Like, I was talking to Marty Rathbun. He was the person. I wasn't talking to anyone else, and that was how I left sort of Scientology, was from my communication with him and how I got declared. And
Yeah.
I'm just one person and there's many more who have that kind of story of connecting up with Marty, connecting up with his blog at that time. It was, and one of the things I want to add that was different about him, that made it easier for some people, was that he wasn't at that time throwing out the entirety of Scientology. He was speaking out about the church, right? So many of us who still were figuring ourselves out were like, oh, okay, I can relate to that. I can relate to the fact that this is about the abuses in the church. I don't know yet how I feel about L. Ron Hubbard and the technology, and people who had wins and gains and whatever weren't yet ready to throw away the entirety of Scientology, but they were understanding and connecting to this thing that Marty was talking about, which was the abuses of the church and the crush regging and the bullshit ideal orgs and all that kind of stuff. And that was what he was a little bit different than some of the past people that had spoken out about, would just throw the whole thing away. He started out just talking about the church. So for many of us, that was something we could go, okay, I want to hear more about this. I don't want to hear about how L. Ron Hubbard's bad. I'm not ready for that yet, And so that was a good gradient for a lot of people who connected with Marty at that time.
Yeah, he offered a gradient Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
a watered down Kool-Aid.
It wasn't even it wasn't even Kool-Aid, because, I guess in some ways he was pushing Scientology, but he was also really exposing the abuses, and we could all see that for what it was and go, okay, that makes sense. And I don't know that I would have been like connected up with him if it was like, oh, the whole thing's bad. I was like, well, I don't know about that. I needed something that made sense to me that I could go, yeah, this is bad. Okay. And just peel it away bit by bit, because sometimes you're just not ready. You're not ready to just throw the whole thing away. You need a little bit of time. You need some hand holding. And Marty was kind of doing that himself. He hadn't yet thrown Scientology out. He knew David Miscavige and the church was bad, but he didn't yet know how he felt about Scientology, the technology.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I would tell Claire, and I would have discussions about this when new people would come out, and I would tell them, just let them do their thing. They just need to be in the world for a little bit, and
You guys were so good at that. You guys were awesome at that. Because when I came out and I spoke to you and Claire, it was like, that's exactly what you said to me. And it was so nice, as opposed to my ex-husband, who was like, yeah, come on, figure it out already. And I was like, wait, I'm not ready yet. You were more patient, you know?
Well, I made up a stupid thing at the time. The time in Scientology is directly proportional to the time it takes you to get out of Scientology. And because some people were in for 40 years, it doesn't, you can't just be like, guess what? Guess what? It's bullshit.
My parents, exactly. You can't just say it's bullshit one day and you're just like, oh, okay, it's bullshit. It took some time. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people liked about Marty was that he was giving us little pieces and, you know, explaining things that were happening. And we were like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, this makes sense. So,
yep. And you know, there was at the time this independent Scientology movement that had sort of grown up around Marty.
And it gave those people a group to kind of join as they're leaving their other group. Like, oh, okay, I've lost everything, but look, here's some people who still think like me, and I can talk to them, and we can have something in common, and we can support each other. And that was needed for a lot of us. That was helpful for a lot of us when we left.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, Christie and I actually hosted the first gathering of independent Scientologists.
We did.
There were other people who had left and become squirrels and have been targeted by RTC, you know, David Mayo, but now the Inspector General of RTC was one of the squirrels.
Yeah, in Scientology, anyone who leaves Scientology officially or doesn't practice Scientology under the direction of Scientology, if they want to do Scientology in the real world outside on their own, Scientology labels them squirrels because they're squirreling the technology. And L. Ron Hubbard has written probably hundreds of thousands of words about squirrels and what they do and why they
gather nuts around them. That's why they're called squirrels.
Yeah.
They alter it, they change it, and they don't do it properly. So they're not really proper Scientologists because they're not doing it with the church.
And at the end of the day, Scientology doesn't make any money off of those people.
Right.
That is the main reason why they're squirrels.
Yes.
Okay, so just a little more backstory here. So a part of this independent Scientology movement was this gathering that we held at our house. We were living in Tarpon Springs at the time, and I guess there was like 50 or 60 people came to this first one. A lot of our old friends, people that we had known forever, Jackson and Tiziano and Jamie and like there were all sorts of people there. And Marty had hooked up with this woman when he was in Texas called Monique, or Mosey, as everybody knew her, and he wanted to get married. So we concocted this little plan that I would register myself as a reverend of the Independent Church of Scientology with the Pinellas County and perform the wedding ceremony, and that this would drive Miscavige and Scientology absolutely nuts because we were now doing the independent Scientology thing and getting sort of credence for it. And I went and got this license and told them who I was, and they were like, okay, no problem. So I performed the wedding of Monique and Marty at our house
in our backyard
during this Independence Day weekend in July 5th or July 4th weekend of 2010. I'm going to show you, pull up a little picture here. Oh, I can't pull it up. Mark's
which one is it?
The first one says
with
wedding.
The foreshot? Yeah.
Because this is actually from Marty's blog. First independent Scientologist wedding. Oh, look how young I look. Oh my God. My dear, I should have blurred this face out.
Oh, stop. It's
our most
good.
sincere thanks to the Right Reverend Michael J. Rinder and organizing wizard extraordinaire Christie King Colbran for pulling off a spectacular first independent Scientologist wedding. You two are the best.
And this is in 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
July 5th, 2010. You can see it right up there at the top.
Yeah.
And then, Mark, pull up the next the next picture. That's me with the 2 ring ceremony. And the next one, here I am giving a little toast, and we had this banner made. Congratulations, Marty and Mosey. And this is actually taken from a video, and that video is still on Marty's blog. And the video is of
Today.
the whole ceremony today. I copied this from his blog today.
Wow.
The whole ceremony is on there, and I'll put a link in the description, so you can go see that video if you want. You'll see a lot of people in there probably that you recognize.
Yep.
Okay, so go to the next one. There you go. And look at this. July 14th, 2010. Marty is writing about the Headleys and what wonderful people they are, and I got together with them, and their lawsuit is complete. Like, Scientology is lying, and it was sort of over the top of how wonderful Marc and Claire Headley are. And I brought this, or I wanted to show this, because today Marc and Claire Headley brought a phony law. According to Marty, they brought a phony lawsuit. They were, trying to make money out of Scientology, or whatever the line is that Scientology wants to use.
In this post, he actually did a declaration for the lawsuit, and he mentions it in this document.
Yeah,
he
a link
submitted
for
an
it.
affidavit in support of what we were saying. That that's exactly how they do it.
Right.
Yep.
And he
Just as we submitted affidavits in support of his lawsuit subsequently as well.
Absolutely. We all
and
did.
Also, a lot of people may or may not know this, but I wrote a book in 2009 called Blown for Good, Behind the Iron Curtain of Scientology. And Marty wrote the foreword to that book. And that wasn't an accident, because at the time, Mike, I don't think you were speaking out at that time in 2008, 2009. I think you were.
It started in 2009 in June with the Truth Rundown.
That's right.
Yep. So we'd already finalized the book.
Yeah,
book.
But regardless, Marty was the only person that was at the property for the entire time that I was at the property, minus, I think he escaped maybe 6 months before I did. He left in 2004. Is when he did his final escape, and I left in 2005. And even when he wrote the foreword, because we didn't agree, he believed that Hubbard was good and Scientology, the organization, was bad. And I was very adamant. The whole thing is a giant con, and everybody involved is Hubbard, Miscavige, Scientology. The whole thing is just a big giant con, and they're ripping off people and all that. And Marty and I both escaped on a motorcycle, and that's how I got the idea to even leave on the motorcycle. I was like, Marty did it, and who's going to get out of here that's higher than Marty? But when he did that, he wrote the foreword and he sent it to me, and he said, you can edit it because we don't share the same view. And I kind of mentioned that in the foreword, and I was like, no, dude, that's the whole reason why I'm having you do it, is because we do not agree. And I think your viewpoint is worth something, even if we don't agree. And that's sort of a thing in Scientology, where everything has to be black or everything has to be white. There can never be gray. There can never be, we have to pick a team, and that's it. That's the way it is. And
Right.
I've always been of the mind, no, that's how they get you, is they put you in teams, and then you're kind of stuck with your team, whether you agree with your own team or not. You might have disagreements even with your team. So I'm like, no, I think there are some kind of value of not agreeing. And even to this day, Scientology still plays that game of trying to separate everybody into different teams. But so even though, and I told him, I said, I'm going to print your foreword exactly as you wrote it, and I'm not modifying a single letter. And to him, he kind of was like, what? Like, he made a big deal about that. Of saying, and then when the book ended up coming out, he said it. He did a whole thing about the book, and hey, even though we don't agree on this, Mark is like, yeah, okay, fine, we don't agree. We don't have to agree, whatever.
Yep. Right.
So, and the main reason I did that, I said, because Marty was there, but also because I knew if Marty wrote the foreword, it's going to make it a very, very tricky thing for them to challenge the book, because how can the number 2 guy in Scientology agree with me and everyone else in Scientology is disagrees? That doesn't work for your little narrative. So
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so during this time period from 2010 onwards for a number of years, I worked very, very closely with Marty on a number of legal cases and seeing the FBI and like all sorts of stuff. We were flying all over the country constantly. Like we flew in to help Debbie Cook when she got sued by Scientology and found Ray Jeffrey through, it was like a lot of stuff. We were going visiting with the FBI in Los Angeles when John Brousseau left. I was the one that took him to the FBI in San Antonio, had them fly out there. I mean,
I have to tell you one thing about that real quick. When the FBI called us when we were in Burbank, when we lived in Los Angeles, and they said, we have somebody who just escaped and somebody who's helping him escape. And we want to know if we can put them up at your house in Burbank as sort of like a safe house. And I'm like, are we really being asked by the FBI if it can be a safe house?
And the best part was, and the best part was they were like, we think you might know this person. And we're like, well, who is it?
It was
John
Marty.
Brousseau. We're like, of course we know John Brousseau.
We knew about John Brousseau, but we didn't know about Marty. So when John Brousseau showed up, Marty was with him. And I was sort of like, holy moly, you guys are the ones the FBI is sending us to stay here. Anyway, but regardless, Marty was a major player on the bad team on the Scientology's enemy list at this point with all this stuff.
Right. Marty and Monique were harassed with fair game tactics worse than anybody I have ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, literally worse than anybody. Every single day, 24 hours a day, people knocking on the door. That goofball John Allender with his stupid hat and Squirrel Busters t-shirt knocking on the door, trying to intimidate Mosey.
And the GoPros on all of their heads.
GoPros on their heads, driving around on golf carts.
They had like 3 houses on their street that their sole purpose was to film them.
Riding boats behind their house in the little canal, like
paddle boats.
Them with cameras from a
Remember
boat.
they had the paddle boats? I'm on a boat. They even shot, the Squirrel Busters even shot music videos about spying on Marty. I mean, it was incessant. It was literally, it was such a big deal that media outlets from all over the world were flying in to film it because they were doing it 100% overtly, just noisy investigation. And they didn't care who filmed them. They were being filmed by German media, US media, Danish media. It was kind of like, it was like SPTV was.
They wouldn't leave him alone.
It was that then.
He was spraying them with a hose from his front yard to get them to leave his property, and they would just stay there.
And that was another music video that Marty made. He made a car wash at the car. He was literally washing his car. It's actually a hilarious, to this day, it stands up. He's washing his car, and these protesters are walking around, and in the middle of washing the car, he just squirts them in the face for a second, then goes back to washing the car. And in the background, at the car wash, is the song playing while he's doing all this.
And I mean, he was good-spirited about it in that video, but this was wearing him down. Him and Mosey being worn down. And they weren't just at their house. Anytime Mike and Marty went anywhere, they had so many PIs on them constantly, like so many incidents. You know, there were times where their doors were slammed in cars and all kinds of like drama with cars being chased and being followed. And it was incessant. It was Marty and Mike and, you know, our family that also had this. But anytime those two were together, the PIs were like hot to trot all over.
Oh, they were waiting for us always at the airport. Dave LeBeau. I mean, there's a video of us walking up and there's Dave LeBeau sitting there. Dave, what are you doing here? I'm here to follow you. I'm going to see exactly where you're going. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then the videos of us with 7 PI cars following us down Pacific Coast Highway from Jason's house.
And they
to meet
crashed
with the
into you one
FBI.
time. There was an accident one time.
Oh, that was outside of Tiziano's house. They ran into us. But this was the way that Scientology was trying to shut down Marty Rathbun.
Yeah.
And when they started then stretching it over into going after Mosey, and Mosey had never been a Scientologist. She was sort of converted to, Marty style Scientology by Marty. She wasn't ever in Scientology per se. She met Marty and they got together, and then he started, auditing her, and she sort of became kind of a Scientologist for a while he was being an independent Scientologist. But when they started going after her at her work and sending dildos to her at her office and like going after her bosses and the people that she worked with, that was when Ray Jeffrey, who we had found Ray to represent Debbie Cook. And Ray is a very, very good lawyer who is in San Antonio. And he helped Marty and Mosey move to another house where they would theoretically have more privacy. And Scientology set up cameras in the woods behind their house and a PI in a trailer park outfit, like just
a rider
100 yards away, because it was a remote location. They decided to file a lawsuit. And this is important because, I missed a photo.
Oh.
Look, get that one of Marty with Christie, because this is our wedding. And Marty gave Christie away because Christie's...
There's a lot more to this part, Mike, if you want me to throw. I mean, the relationship that I had with Marty, so on a personal level, like I said in the beginning, when I was leaving, Marty was my friend. He was like a friendly, fatherly type figure for me. I lost my family. Marty was with me through that entire thing, like helping me decide what to do. I went and stayed at his house. I stayed with him and Mosey. They took me in. I had almost no friends. I had no family. I was me and Shane, a 2-year-old, by myself. And then I went through a divorce. And throughout all of that time period, Marty and Mosey were there for me. They were probably my closest friends. And he was a really, good friend of mine, a really important person in my life at that time. And yes, we asked him to be the
minister.
I asked him to be the minister, and he didn't want to do that. But so then I said, will you walk me down the aisle? And he did. And that was actually towards the very end of our friendship. That was kind of the last time I even saw him was that time period. And so anyway, so there was a lot of personal friendship between me and Marty and Mosey that I had with them. And I met Marty before I met Mike. So, that was a very strong friendship.
And then also, I want to make sure we don't forget it, but wasn't Going Clear in there somewhere as well? Or did that happen? I think that happened before the wedding, the Going Clear movie,
I don't remember
right?
when Going Clear happened in the scheme of all that.
I thought it was maybe 2017 or 16.
Okay. But either way, wasn't Marty involved in the Going Clear film and some of the stuff that was done with that?
I remember. Mike, you remember?
I don't remember. I think he was in Going Clear, but I don't totally remember.
Yeah,
but then after Going Clear, we did Louis Theroux's movie.
Right, but even at Going Clear, by the time it came out, he was already going a little like, I'm not going to go do promo for it.
Yeah,
he wasn't there at the premiere.
Yeah,
he was like, these. Whatever. We're about to sort of get into now what happened, because I write about this in my book, because the mystery of Marty has baffled a lot of people. It baffled me. It continues to baffle me in many respects, and I'll explain why. But the lawsuit was filed because at the time, Mosey and Marty were trying to adopt a child.
Yeah.
And they were very, very worried that Scientology would mess with them being able to do and carry out the adoption, that they would come up with complaints, that they would say that they were, whatever they would do, that they would mess with it. And when they discovered the cameras in the trees behind the house, they freaked out because they knew who the mother of the kid that they were adopting was. And that mother and the father of the kid had come to their house. She was a young girl, and they had come to their house to meet Marty and Mosey. And now they freaked out because they found these cameras, and they were worried that Scientology would now be able to identify these people and mess it up entirely.
Yep.
And so the lawsuit got filed in a hurry by Ray, and he got a temporary restraining order against Scientology and David Miscavige and Religious Technology Center and the private investigators to prevent them from doing anything against Monique and Marty.
And it kind of shut everything down.
It did shut everything down. And that turned into an incredible battle that Mosey, who was the plaintiff in the case, with the assistance of Ray and the other lawyers who were working with him, were trumping Scientology. I mean,
they were going to win.
They were getting their asses handed to them, left, right, and center. It was in a little courthouse in New Braunfels.
And Mike, you were so involved. Mike was flying back and forth. Mike was spending hours and hours and hours of his free time. I mean, these are our friends. These are our closest friends. Mike is invested with every ounce of his soul to help fight this lawsuit and to help Marty and Mosey win. Like, when Mike does these kind of things, he gives it everything. If you're Mike's friend and he's helping you on your lawsuit, you're good. Mike is amazing, and he will be there. And that's what he did. He was there for them every step of the way. I just had to say that, Mike, because you put so much into that. You worked so hard on that lawsuit to help them.
Yeah, yes, I did. I mean, I was basically the contact point for rounding up witnesses and affidavits from people supporting these statements that had been made by Marty and Mosey Mosey in the lawsuit, and helping helping the lawyers navigate their way through the crazy policies and way Scientology approaches litigation. In any event, it was a long battle that was going exceedingly well. I mean, that's when
we were shooting the Louis Theroux thing, my Scientology movie.
Yeah,
exactly.
And if you watch that, if you want to get an essence of where Marty was at during that time, if you watched Louis Theroux, my Scientology movie, he's unhinged in the movie because he was basically being harassed, and the kid, the way we heard it, or the way I was told, is they were still trying to figure out how to make it so they couldn't adopt that kid all the way up until that movie came out. And then when that movie came out, Marty had already flip-flopped to the other side and said this was all a joke, and I don't support this. And he was basically denying everything he said in the film that they had shot.
Yeah. And a few months before that, I had flown to San Antonio, Texas, and shot with Marty for Investigation Discovery. They asked me to participate because I was Marty's direct junior. And even at that time, that was like June approximately, and the Louis Theroux movie was, I think, October. But even then, he was very standoffish and a little strange. And really, the only thing we connected on was his adopted son. And because my youngest son was not that much of a difference in age. So we kind of were like, oh, yeah. But it was very tense and unusual. And, obviously by that point, I'd known and worked with Marty for many years. So it just felt off.
You had,
with
and Mike, you had a visit with him too once
Right.
he actually had
I
his son.
went to Austin. I went to Austin and I called him and I said, "Hey, I'm in Austin. I'll drive down to San Antonio and see you and Mosey," because they were living in a house in San Antonio at that time.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I don't know. And he didn't exactly know how to say no.
Yep.
And so, because I was very insistent, "Hey man, I'm 100 miles away. I'm going to come down and see you."
Yeah.
And I arrived at the house and it was like I knocked on the door and it was like this long delay. And then he eventually came and opened the door. "Hi, come in," not the usual greeting. And then I sat and small talked about the weather and about their son, and
which is not something that we do.
Yeah,
No.
and whereas the like however many months before that, for New Year's Eve, we went to their house and stayed at their house with both of our children.
Yeah.
And were their guests and were there for their big New Year's Eve party. And that was when they were still doing the lawsuit, and Ray was there and all the friends were there, and it was a big celebration and it was fun and happy, and we took lots of amazing pictures. So it was like family.
Yep. So when suddenly one day out of the blue, there was an announcement that Marty Rathbun had dismissed her lawsuit. Like, it was like literally, what?
Yeah.
When they were slaying it and gonna win.
Yeah.
Yes.
What? And I called up Ray and it was like, they didn't talk to us. They didn't consult with us. We have no idea what's going on.
This is Ray.
Ray Jeffrey,
Yes.
the lawyer.
Yeah, he's saying
their lawyer. And he's saying, I don't know what I'm like. This
Mike, let me
them.
enter in one more thing before this. So Marty and Mosey were also having talks with someone. We don't know who or what. He didn't even tell us, but he called us up before this lawsuit dismissal announcement. He called us and he had a phone call with me and Mike, and Mosey was there in the background. Like, it was between Marty and Mike talking, but me and Mosey were there for the conversation. And he basically said something like, which sort of implied there was talks, there was things, or
they were negotiating a deal.
He didn't even say that. He just said, let's say there was something like that. It was kind of an implication of, if something like that was to happen, Mosey and I have talked, and we just want you to know, Mike and Christie, that no matter what happens, no matter what, discussions, negotiations could happen with this lawsuit, we will not abandon you, Mike and Christie. We will not, walk away from you. No matter, because sometimes the church will try to gag you or tell you have to disconnect from your friends. Here's your money, all that. And they said, if we do any of those things, we may or may not do them, right? But we will not abandon Mike and Christie. And this was said to me and Mike with like pure, you could feel the like, okay, good, you're part of our team, we're family, we were family. That's how it felt. And then so it was a complete
let me show you one other thing too, because this was in our lawsuit when we ended up losing our lawsuit when it got dismissed on and we basically had to pay these legal fees. Scientology sent us a letter saying, you won't have to pay the $45,000 if you become a spy, if you turn over the rights to your book, if you give us any contacts. But they only mention one person by name, and that's Marty Rathbun. They say you have to turn over all of their contacts with Marty Rathbun and any others engaged in disparaging CSI and RTC. And when we got this, I called Marty and I said, Marty, I got this letter. And he was like, well, you know, if you have to do, you have to do what you have to do. And I said, no, dude, I don't have to do anything. I'm going to write him a check. I'm not turning over anything.
Yeah, we were like, no way. And
yeah.
in no circumstances
Yeah. I said,
are
I'm
we
not
going
making
to
a deal.
spy for them. Are you
Yeah.
freaking kidding me?
And also, I
Oh
don't
my
want
God.
their blood money. I was
Right.
sort of like, you know, I get it. If you have to settle, you have to settle. But I don't have to settle. It's $45K. I could come up with $45K if I have to.
Not that
And
it wasn't
so-
hard, but we'll
Yeah.
do whatever we have to do. We're not going to cooperate with terrorists.
Right.
Anyway, so we
Yeah.
both
Well,
we both sort of had this enough of a relationship with Marty that we're like,
Yeah.
we're loyal. We're not going to
loyal.
throw anybody
no,
under
he
the
was
bus
literally
as
like,
part
yeah.
of this. As part of this situation that we're in, we will fight to the end, and we won't take a payout. We won't
That's
be
right.
compromised.
and
We're
I
gonna-
don't even care about the payout. Take the payout. Some people do take the payout, whatever. Do that bullshit. Don't abandon your friends, because there are people who have decided to settle and who have like, I'm done with this fight. He went through hell. They harassed the shit out of Marty. I wouldn't even like be upset with him if he decided to quietly walk off into the sunset and take the money and just be quiet. But don't backstab your friends. Don't actually speak poorly about Mike Rinder after the fact. No, you do not have, that is not okay. Like that. We are here for you. We were there. I mean, the relationship with them was as close as it is with you guys. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I said, I was at their house for New Year's Eve. Like that's, so, you know, it was such a tight relationship. And for them to then flip, it hurt. That's what it felt like. More than anything, it was a painful hurt.
Yeah.
So-
and the sad part at the end of the day is really who was destroyed in this mess is Marty.
Exactly. We were talking about that
That's the
earlier
other
today,
part.
Claire.
Yeah.
Like, for those who don't know, what then subsequently happened was they withdrew the case, or they dismissed the case. They bought a new house, and Mosey started a baking company, or cake baking business. And Marty,
they call it a bakery.
Yeah, cake baking business.
There's
Do
a
they,
word
honey?
for it. It's a
Is that
bakery.
what it's called?
It's a cake baking business. Okay.
I love the therapy of laughter. Can I just say that?
Yeah. We call that a bakery here in America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. The lawyers got completely iced out. They didn't get anything, even though they had spent years working on this case and had taken it further than anybody has ever taken this sort of litigation against Scientology, and have been more successful. They got zip, zero, nada, nothing. And then Marty started doing these crazy brown jacket videos, and they were shot by Gold. Clearly, they were these scripted, looked like the POW videos that they have everybody else do, all our family members and, people that used to work in the Sea Org that come in and say that Mark licked crackers, and they're the same sort of setup videos. And Marty started reinventing history and claiming that, Leah Remini had offered him huge amounts of money to do the Aftermath show, and that he wouldn't do such a thing. He had rejected all ideas like that. And, the people are doing this sort of stuff. And Mike Rinder's a liar, and Marc Headley and Tom DeVocht and everybody, we're all now suddenly bad.
But here's, I got to say, this is the most bizarre part of, or to me was one of the most bizarre parts of this, is that these were on his blog. He was putting these videos up on his blog, but the posts that we showed you before were still on the blog. So you have him saying everything is white and everything is white, and this is why it is. And even though David Miscavige says it's black, we know that it's white. And now he's coming back on the same exact blog where these other things are saying, and goes, you guys know everything's black. These guys are saying it's white. David Miscavige has always been true about, and you're just like, dude, you still have the other stuff up. And the fact that you downloaded these things of you at each other's weddings and it's still on the blog, you're just like, how? And so we all assumed, I get it, he can't take down the bad stuff because then that's going to give everybody cause, and maybe the lawyers will have a little bit more to bite into to get the, you guys made a deal and you left us out of the deal and all this stuff. But to this day, all of the good things that he said about us and all of the things that are the truth are up there, but now all of these new things that are obviously lies that he was exactly the polar opposite on the stance before. All of these things are in the exact same block.
Yeah.
And what's so hilarious about this is Scientology then started citing Marty Rathbun as the source of valid information about me or about Leah or about Mark or Christie or whoever.
And nobody listens.
And
Nobody listens to Marty Rathbun.
And they still operate the Rotten Rat website where they tell everybody that Marty's a liar and that all the abuse came from Marty. And so both Scientology and Marty have both stories up on both of their websites.
And that's what, to me, is what is so kind of like upsetting about it, is like, you didn't have to do that, Marty. You could have made some other agreement. You didn't have to agree to flip-flop and talk shit about all your friends and, betray all your friends, because it was useless. Nobody is going to listen. Nobody changed their mind because of the new content Marty Rathbun put out. Nobody decided, oh, well, now that Marty's saying this, I'll go back to the church. Or Mike and Mark and Claire and Christie are really bad, actually. Nobody listens to a word of it. It's all useless. So it doesn't make any sense. Like, you could have made a better agreement.
Oh, we lost you, Christie. Oh, there you go.
Anyway, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. You just got so excited that the mic was just like, I can't.
Anyway,
overload. Input overload.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's just a completely ridiculous, pointless thing that he didn't need to do.
And in the end, I think that was definitely part of Scientology's plan, is that we're just going to make his opinion useless because he said both sides. He's played both sides of this game, so now you don't know what side is the real side.
Right. And he ends up looking like a complete moron. I mean, it's sort of sad in a way that
very sad.
He both betrayed his friends and ended up looking like a complete idiot.
Yeah.
He looks like a double agent.
Yeah, maybe
everybody knows.
And truly, maybe he just doesn't care, and if that's how he feels about it, great. But it's not.
He clearly does care somewhat, and that's what prompted actually us to do this tonight, was because the only thing that we have seen from Marty for some time is his brown jacket videos.
Yeah,
that's been it. And he wrote a review of my book saying it was all egocentric, self-centered, blah blah, whatever. I didn't even remember. I read it and I was like, oh, okay. It's kind of typical. I mean, one thing about Marty is he writes in a very, very obtuse manner.
He does.
That's putting it mildly, honey.
Yeah, that's gentle words, Mike. Good job.
His
he
writing
pontificates.
He's writing about historical things that happened and somehow correlating them to Scientology, and then quoting Nas, and you're just like,
yeah,
what? Did you just quote a rapper as part of your article? And you're just like, what is going on over at Marty's house that he's listening to Nas and being inspired to write historical articles about Scientology?
Right. In any event, so
it's confusing. He just confuses the shit out of you. You try to read it and it's just confusing.
Yeah, you go, what's the point of writing? Is it to leave somebody confused, or is it to communicate something to somebody?
And not all of his writing was like that in the beginning. Some of it was really amazing, and it was like, wow, this is so good. And it just
when Marty writes about here is what happened, it's pretty clear. When Marty writes about here is what I think about what happened, it gets really confusing. Like, like impossible to follow usually. So recently I got sent a screen cap from someone who was on LinkedIn, and Mark, pull that one up because I can't do it. The first one there. And actually this little thing is from a LinkedIn page that's Marc Rathbun, Spiritual Guidance, and actually even has a picture of him in, I think that's one of the brown shirt. No, actually, I think that's an interview.
I was going to say that was a TV interview.
Yeah.
Like Anderson Cooper, or the Inch
Right.
Wives, or whatever.
So, and you know, San Antonio Spiritual Guidance. I'm thinking, wow, that's a little weird. Marty's offering spiritual guidance at this point. So then he changed his page a bit, his LinkedIn page, and I got sent another one. Spiritual guidance, writing consultation. And a little quote down here: blessed are those who have undergone ordeals. They have entered into life. The Gospel of Thomas. I don't know. I guess it's a Bible.
I think it's
the Gospel of Thomas. It must be.
It's a part of the Bible.
Yeah. So he is sort of offering himself up to help people. And that to me is very ironic.
Yeah.
It's
just a little
ironic that someone who has lost his way so terribly and has betrayed so many people, and sort of all over the map, thinks he is in a position to be offering spiritual guidance to anybody.
Yeah.
And then the day before, or just very recently, someone sent me something else. He apparently has a Substack now, and is that
this one?
Yes. Yep. This is Marty Rathbun at his finest, most obtuse, absurd writing about, you know, what God is and how he's come to understand God and his experiences. And I'm not going to read it. We'll have it in a link and you'll be able to see it, but it is like crazy talk. This is not, this is sort of sad to me.
Yeah.
And we who have known Marty very...
Somebody just told a dog somewhere to shut up.
We don't know where that came from, but I heard it loud.
I'll tell her too. Emmy, shut up, Emmy. Come on, take it easy.
That must have been Shane.
Yeah.
Emmy didn't like the God article from Marty.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emmy did not approve. Neither did I, by the way. Like, really?
Sorry, Mike. We interrupted. Go on.
No. I didn't really have too much to say about it other than it's kind of sad. He's become like a lonely little hermit sitting in a room somewhere, writing about things that he thinks are really, really important and that the world should know about, should hear his opinion on these things. And I don't know, you can go read it and see what you think, but it's like, I was going to say, for those of us who have known Marty closely over a long period of time, he has always had a tinge of insanity.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
He has always had this sort of slightly, you're worried that maybe he's going to go off the deep end. And
right. The amount of times that I watched
him
every
once in a while.
Yeah, the amount of times that I watched him in a conference room at the base, granted, so, you know, none of us were in a sane, safe space, but where he would turn purple and just snap pencils and, you know, like, you're just like, wow, unhinged much? I mean, you know, even in that scenario where there was a lot of unhinged things going on, still, you know, but nonetheless, I don't wish bad for him, and I feel sorry for the misery he's brought on himself, frankly.
Yes, absolutely correct. And
It's just sad.
It's heartbreaking.
I have assumed that his motivation and Mosey's motivation for dismissing their lawsuit was in order to, I can just imagine the conversation that went down. If I was presenting this from the Scientology side, trying to reach some sort of a deal with Marty Rathbun, I would be saying to him, Marty, you're, 69 or 74 or however many years old. You have a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old son. You have always been concerned about his future and being able to provide for him. You have nothing. You have no money. You don't have a house. You don't have anything. What if you drop dead tomorrow? What's going to happen to your son and to Mosey? And I believe that would be the go button for Marty, and that he would take that over and above anything else and protect his son and protect his wife
at whatever expense.
Screw whatever the consequences were.
Right.
And that's
but he could have still done that without screwing the consequences.
Well, I understand, but that's where the
you're right.
craziness comes in.
He could have protected his wife and protected his son and gone off peacefully and quietly and never spoken a word again and not stabbed us in the heart. He could have done it that way.
Though, as we all discussed earlier, they pushed Marty, Scientology pushed Marty to the breaking point. And that was very clear to all of us when we watched the Louis Theroux documentary, that he was pushed to the point of being unhinged. Not to mention the fact that because of the extensive harassment of Marty that Scientology carefully executed, they had plenty of documentation. Like, remember, didn't he get arrested on his wedding night in New Orleans and they had his mugshot?
It was in the honeymoon.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, they did everything they could do.
Well, he assaulted a police officer, except the police officer was a horse. So he punched a horse on Bourbon Street. And
I don't support any abuse of horses. That's
neither
not
do I. And neither do the New Orleans Police Department either.
No.
So
understandably. I'm just saying that Scientology had plenty of fodder in their bin to use on Marty.
I mean, for sure, at the end of the day, we can definitely put the majority of the blame on Scientology, David Miscavige, and L. Ron Hubbard for Marty's current stat.
Yes,
let's not forget.
But
not forget.
He's also a person that could have made a better choice.
But let's not forget, Scientology and David Miscavige in particular knew all of Marty's
his whole life,
his problems,
his
idiosyncrasies. They knew everything, so they played it exactly how they should have played it to drive him to do what he did.
Yes, right. Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Before we get too much further,
right where they wanted him.
The Gospel of Thomas is an extra canonical sayings gospel. It was discovered near Nag Hammadi, Egypt in December 1940, and it's 114 sayings of Jesus. So,
and Amy Scobie says that quote Thomas is not from the Bible.
Yes, we stand corrected.
I'm just saying, I want to correct my part of the Bible nonsense.
On the Bible.
Hey, what do I know? I grew up in a cult.
We don't know anything about anything regarding that kind of stuff.
It was not a Bible thumping cult we grew up in. So
I did play Angel Gabriel when I was 8 years old, but that's about the most I know.
I can say the Lord's Prayer.
Me too, actually. Now that I think
learned
about
that in school.
I did too.
Okay, so do you want to do a few quick things and then
I have one other blog. I have a blog post. I'm just going to put it up because I don't know what to do.
We did
that.
Oh, yeah, that was us. I can't. This screen is so tiny on my window here.
I just want to say one other thing, which goes along with what Claire said. And I mean, truly, I don't wish Marty any ill will. I don't. And I don't think any of us do. I wish him peace and happiness and joy with his wife and his child, because he did a lot of really good things too. And I was hurt by his betrayal, but I don't, he was a good friend. He really was. For me and Mike, we were very close with Marty and Mosey. So I want him to be happy and be at peace. And, I don't think he is, but I hope that he will be at some point.
Yep.
Yeah. The one thing that Scientology always tries to do is they They cannot have connections. So if SPs are talking to other SPs, they will do everything they can to try and disconnect them from each other. Even if they're not connected to Scientologists, they don't even want them to be connected to each other, because that's how they can sort of collaborate and do, you know, what they're doing. And when Scientology goes after one of these people, this is the kind of stuff that they do we don't usually talk about this stuff on the channel, because we're not trying to bring attention to what's being done to us. We're trying to expose what Scientology is doing. So when Scientology, and they've been doing this since the early days of the internet, where they get trolls, or they get plants, and they get them to infiltrate the group. And then what they do is they start to cause infighting, and they spread rumors. And in Scientology, they have a thing called the third party law, or the third party rule. And if there is a quarrel, there is always a third individual who said something to either one or both of these people, kind of gave them a little bit of gossip, or lied to each of them about that the other one said, and they create conflict.
Intentionally so.
Yeah, and Scientology flips that around, like, oh, this is how you discover if there's a conflict. This is how you do it. Well, they turn it around the other way, and they go, this is how to create conflict.
They created it.
So whenever I'm trying to be very, choose my words. Whenever there's drama within this Scientology exposed kind of community and SPTV, or whether it's on the internet, or if it's on YouTube or on Facebook, Scientology is always there trying to stir the pot and trying to cause trouble. And we try to, as best as we can, ignore the drama, because it's just a distraction. It's meant as a distraction for us, and it's meant to divide and put everybody onto one side and that sort of thing. But the one thing it tells us is when there is high drama and it's going on like this, that we're doing something right, because Scientology are going nuts trying to stop us. So if I know YouTube is sort of, the way the YouTube works is some channels like the drama, because it creates more viewers and it creates more subscribers. And so YouTube channels channels about comedy and comedians. I watch these things and I see the drama. We try not to embrace the drama, because that's not the goal. It's like we're at a game and we're on the field playing the game, and some dude just took a dump on someone's car out in the parking lot. That has nothing to do with what we're doing here. Just because Scientology is taking dumps out in the parking lot, we're not going to cover that, because we don't care about that. We're trying to expose them and play the game right here in front of us. So if you are wondering why we don't talk about those things whenever they come, this has been going on for we've been doing this since 2006, Claire and I. We've seen this 100 times in 100 different variations. And so we're sort of numb to it, but maybe some of these new creators. I wouldn't say we're
numb to it.
Well, but either way, some of these new creators that are coming in like, oh, I'm going to tell my story. And then you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. You're like, yeah, this is for realsies. We play for keeps in this game. And and the last thing I wanted to say was sometimes the people that cave, they didn't sign up for their entire personal life to be aired out on the internet and become all this thing. Well, unfortunately, when we left, that was step one of Scientology, is to try to cancel us on the internet and cancel us in
very first thing they did was destroy any possibility we ever had of speaking to our family, mothers, brothers, sisters ever again. That was just flushed down the toilet. So
so that was taken off the table right off the bat for us. So we're kind of like at the point where like we ain't got nothing left to lose. But some people aren't like that. So if you see people come and go, and kind of disappear from the scene, they might have gotten in a little over their head to what they thought this was going to be like. And so, and I don't want to put those people down for deciding to bow out.
Definitely
because that's their choice. That nobody
that's what I
has
said
to do
about Marty.
nobody
he can
has
walk away
to
if
do
he
this.
wants. Nobody
don't
has
have-
to do this.
Yeah.
And there
it's
have
not-
been people that walked away and just quietly did their thing, which is a little different than what Marty did. But yeah,
You're right. It's very different.
You know,
very different. But
it's-
each person has to walk their path, and it's not any of our roles nor our intention to judge anybody for their choices, because the fact of the matter is that any day of the week, exposing $1 billion cult is not for the faint of heart.
And Marty Rathbun, for all the bad, did so much good. Like on this side, on our side, he really did change a lot.
Yes.
And that stuff I'm still grateful for.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Find love, not hate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's
Well
do some
said,
comments.
Christy. I love you.
I love you too, Claire.
Love fest
Oh
over
my
here.
God. Mark.
Okay. Okay. Oh, before I'm going to hide this
love
one.
everybody.
Wait, Mark. Before we go,
Yeah.
we have to. Did you copy?
I did.
Rush.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm going to do
Yes.
before we do that.
We have some follow-up from
We
last
had a
night.
live stream yesterday, and right before the stream, some comments popped up, and we had already ended the stream by the time they showed up on our end. And guess what? I'm going to show them. So this is one. It says it was from Mrs. T. Rush. Is it Rush?
I think it's Rush.
Rush.
We all think it's
R-U-S-H.
Rush.
No, I asked about little man syndrome and corrected the pronunciation of my name. Did anyone do a deep dive on Dave's Napoleon complex? I don't think anybody's done a deep dive, but I do know, I did find out recently that Napoleon was taller than David Miscavige. So, I mean, that's gotta have something to do with something. Okay, the next one is I went to William and Mary. Oh, this is the person. I can't read it because it's got the forward on it, but I went to Williams and Mary. So you loved Williamsburg. Mike, still celebrating the good news about your health. God bless you and you both. Okay, good.
Nice.
Did-
Thank you, Christy Lee Wilson.
Did Rosemary have to pay the credit card debt that OSA charged to her account? She did, right? She
Yep,
paid
she
off all
zeroed
those
it out.
cards.
Yeah, she
Yep.
paid them all off.
Yeah, so they stole the money and then she paid off the cards.
Yeah.
And then they paid her back.
And then they
for
direct
having-
deposited all that money back into her account before the feds could bust down their door. 8 points of our factor. Having an Aussie as a BFF, you should know better. Temperature and UV rays don't have a relationship.
Yeah, that
You
was
know,
for you about the
yeah.
fishing. Because
I'm
look at
not
your
a-
bright, shiny forehead in that picture, honey.
I know.
Oh, the
it was
worst
really-
something I ever got was skiing in Colorado.
That's true. I remember
Oh.
you saying that when you were, but today I look a million times better. It was really, I mean, I just got off the river
You were
and
hot
came
too.
and did the
You were
live.
still
Yeah.
overheated.
Yeah.
Can I just say my favorite moment of yesterday was when Mark called bighorn sheep bullhorn sheep. It was amazing.
Yeah, that
I'm
was
glad
very
you
funny.
were amused. I'm
That
glad you
was
were
so
amused.
funny.
My brain was on overdrive. Okay. Overtime overdrive. Okay. So we did show your super chats from yesterday.
And she
at
just
Mrs. T.
commented
Rouge.
that it's Rush.
Rush. It's
Rush.
Rush.
See, we do that.
R-U-S-H. I
Yes.
saw that yesterday.
I know.
R
I just,
period U
there's
period
some words
S
I just
period H.
always want to say a certain way. It
And
doesn't
you
matter how many
disappeared
times
it.
telling. Okay, here now to start off today, Mrs. T. Rush.
Rush.
I would be wrong, but I've always thought Marty is a sociopath. He enjoys being the enforcer. What do you think?
Yep.
He did not like it. I'll tell you that. He didn't seem to not like it.
Yeah, I would
I
agree with
agree.
that.
Hey, by the
Um,
way, folks, segue. I thought of a new name for this show right here.
Oh,
You
yeah.
ready?
Uh-huh.
MC squared. Get it?
Yeah, MC,
And
MNC
Mike
and MNC.
And Mark.
I
and
know. I thought of
Claire
it the
and
other day,
Christy.
but I wasn't going to tell anybody
Oh,
because
it's so good.
my
So
brain
good.
recovered and was like, yeah, don't say those words out loud.
So good. That's a
okay.
good one, Claire. Good job.
Thank you. Thank
Dastardly
you.
Saboteur, was he ever assigned to the RPF?
No,
I don't think so.
no,
Marty?
he was not.
Are we
No.
talking about
Never.
Marty?
In it-
Marty,
but
yes,
even in the
Marty.
70s and all that stuff?
Nope,
No.
never.
You know, Matt, another person who knows a lot about Marty is Matt
Pesh.
Pesh,
Yep.
because he and Marty joined the Sea Org at the same time back in the 70s.
Right.
in
Yes.
Los
And I
Angeles.
think Matt was the first person that Marty reached out to.
Yes, I saw
that's
Amy Scobie commented about that.
Amy,
in the-
Amy and Matt helped to get Marty to actually start speaking out. They
Right.
were the ones. They went there and started talking to him about the disconnection, and then he got really upset. He was all quiet, not doing anything, and he got all worked up and was like, "I got to do something." And
Yeah. All of us, you guys think this happened by accident. All of the people that you see, Matt and Amy and Mike, we've been doing this for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Before we were on YouTube, we were still doing this, just not not with 2,000 people watching live. Noel Goldberg watched video update on Mike's health. Who knew that the best possible news would be that Mike is a mutant who has lost his inner glow? LOL.
Mike is a mutant.
I tell you, BT's activate, baby.
BT's activate.
Okay.
Boom.
We need like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle name for you now, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike the Mutant.
Mike the mutant. Oh, Scientology is going to do. They got a website cooking up right now.
Yeah, they
No,
got.
we'll just call you Magic Mike.
The Suppressive Pup says, question, was there ever any writings from LRH about dealing with people with violence? Oh, absolutely.
There is a pretty famous, infamous advice, which is a Hubbard writing that was never published as a policy letter, but is to be treated the same way, to David Miscavige about down dog, and every now and then you have to beat people in order to get them to be obedient and teach them a lesson.
Yeah.
Miscavige used that routinely to justify what he did.
Wow.
Yeah. And when somebody might say, like, if he would see somebody like going like, oh, I don't know about that, he'd be like, hey, listen, LRH said you got to do this. This is the way. This is why. I'm not doing this because I'm a meanie. I'm doing this because Hubbard said you got to do it every once in a while.
And
you
then
got
there
to
was a flag order too about when the ship's about to hit the rocks, it's okay for officers to yell. It doesn't talk about physical violence, but it talks about yelling and
well,
screaming.
there is
knowledge
there-
report
The knowledge
says,
report says take the person in a dark alley and do whatever you got to do.
yeah, if you
Okay.
come out when
Give them
he's
a
got a
black
black
eye.
eye,
Yeah.
then
Right.
you
And
know,
So
everybody
there's
knows.
so
There
there
was
even in
another-
addition. Go ahead.
There's another flag order that says that Sea Org members coming to physical
Blows.
Right.
altercation is not actionable other than if it prevents someone, damages someone so they can't do their job.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could rough somebody up as long as they can work. We're good.
Yep.
So that's numerous policies right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mark
There are
Fisher.
hundreds,
Mark
if not
Fisher's Las
thousands.
Vegas Travel and More. Is
He's
that
got
what
a
it's-
new blog,
Nice.
a new YouTube channel. I'm sorry.
Okay, he said a
Oh.
word here. I'm just going to read the gang, and then it rhymes with gang, but it starts with a B. Sec checks were started by DM at ASI completely. So started by David Miscavige at Author Services Incorporated.
Is
Right.
that
Completely
word
crazy.
a word we're not allowed to say on YouTube?
I'm
We're
going
just
to
being
err on the side of
conservative.
not,
Okay.
because,
I
we're
don't know
not
all the
doing a
YouTube
video about
rules,
that.
so-
And if you,
okay.
but that was a term used in the Sea Org. If
Yep.
there are multiple people interrogating you, that's what it was called within the Sea organization.
In
It was a
fact,
known thing.
I think that, and then that got, I'm not sure, Mark, whether that began before or after, but the first widespread implementation of that particular technique was at the San Francisco Mission Holders Convention.
Yes.
Yeah, where they just lined them up.
Yep. And it
Mhm.
was, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4 people at once.
And that was definitely, I'm going to say without a doubt, that was during Miscavige's era, not during Hubbard's era. That was a
Yeah.
Miscavige-esque, or the people that were working with him at the time kind of thing.
Well, don't get too certain about that, because that transcript of that whole thing was sent to Hubbard.
Well, no, but
he-
I'm saying he wasn't the one. Hubbard, I don't know of any instances of Hubbard partaking in that. That was-
okay.
yeah.
Okay. But
I don't, not that he
Trust
didn't
me,
know
amended-
about
We're
it.
not defending Hubbard.
Yeah.
Come on, Mark.
Yeah. You know what? I was thinking the
I
other
think your
night.
BTs have gotten a little wonky.
No, listen to
Like-
me. if your nickname when you were a kid was Laffy, you might have been a little bit unhinged too. Hubbard's first name, everybody calls him L. Ron Hubbard. His first name is Lafayette. Okay. If there are any bullies around when he was a kid, they were on duty for that.
There was,
I'm
and he
telling you.
jumped on them from a 10-foot fence.
Yeah.
And he
That's
read
right.
the policy
I
letter.
think-
Yes,
I
yes.
think
The
there's some
O'Connell
story.
kids, he beat them up.
I think there's
All
some
of them.
stories about that Colonel Snake Thompson that we don't know about as well. An older military gentleman on a
That
boat
like-
hanging out
that
with a
like to
little
stroke
kid.
Cats.
Yeah, that liked to have a cat in his cabin, and L. Ron Hubbard was hanging out with him full time. There's untold stories on this
Yep.
Hubbard childhood.
Okay.
Thank you for
Lordy
that,
Lord.
Mark Fisher. Mitch Brisker, thank you for being in the chat, Mitch. After he blew, Miscavige was fond of saying Marty's mom received electroshock therapy when Marty was in the womb. Marty and Dave were bottomless pits of evil. Okay.
Yep. He
Yeah,
said that.
th-
David Miscavige said that many times before Marty blew too.
Yes. I
And
was
And
just
that's the
going to
kind of
say.
thing.
Broadly-
That's the kind of thing
broadly.
you don't say. Like you don't tell people that. Like that's if that's
Well-
true or not true. That's personal information.
Right.
That's,
David Miscavige one time told me that my mom was the stupidest Sea Org member that he had ever encountered, and that when he met her on the RPF, he left her on the RPF because she was so stupid that she deserved the RPF for being that stupid, and then didn't know because she had a different last name that was my mom. Mountain Dew X97. Mike, read your book and was shocked to find out that you were out here in the Buffalo area. Have you by chance heard of Ellie Perkins and her passing?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
pretty
we all
sure
have.
everybody in
Absolutely, we all
Scientology
have.
has heard about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We watched
maybe
the
they're-
show, spoke
Yeah.
to various relatives. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremy Perkins has done a number of interviews on
Right.
YouTube. Yeah.
Sarah Blodgett, I remember that Marty had a brother who was mentally ill. Do you think some of Marty's actions reflect some mental instability? Well, that's kind of his Marty Rathbun's origin story. Thank you for that, Sarah. Very generous. Marty Rathbun's origin story was that he was put in, well, the brother and him were at a bar, and there was a bar fight that Marty was involved in, and his brother came to stick up for him and, settle it. And his brother was stabbed and passed away.
Yeah.
In that scenario. And then very shortly after that, in the very early years of Marty's Sea Org career, he was assigned to watch a woman whose husband had threatened to end her with a firearm. And
this was at the Big Blue buildings in Los Angeles in the late 70s.
Yeah. And Marty was put in charge of watching that woman so that she wouldn't be harmed by the husband. And the husband showed up at the complex, and the husband ended her with, just like he said he would. And that was on Marty too. So
isn't it true that Marty Rathbun and Ken Hoden both were temporarily arrested when that happened because they were both at the scene of the crime? That's at least what Marty told me.
I don't know about that, Claire, but I know that he was literally in the line of fire.
Yes.
Like he wasn't like watching from 100 yards down the street.
No.
Yeah.
And this whole thing about Marty's family, his brother, his mother had all sorts of problems. The Marty's family history is one that you sort of go, okay, well, if you believe that one's genes and how the environment in which they were raised affects the way that they approach life, then you would absolutely conclude that this had a big impact on Marty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I don't know any of the facts, but I recall Marty saying that when he was approximately 6 is when his mother ended herself. So all of that is, always I looked at Marty as a traumatized person
Mhm.
before and not ending with his involvement in Scientology.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. And then Jolene Harris. Behind the Bastards is a podcast that has comedians on to tell the stories of the worst people in history. Mark should reach out to do a DM episodes. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you, Jolene. I
Nice.
appreciate that.
Or an L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah,
we
there
did
you
both.
go.
We did a double feature.
Exactly.
David Miscavige, Marty, everybody.
Yeah.
J Beans, was it hard to forgive each other for the effed up COS made you do to each other? I'm a never am, but a trauma survivor, and that would be near impossible. Fortunately for us, I think for the most part, even though Mike is, he's sort of he writes some of the spy files that I cover in my thing. I was already gone by that part, and I already I knew he was up. I knew he was doing that. So it was sort of like, that was his part, and I had my part. So it was sort of like, I'm not going to blame Mike for the part he was there to play. But when we were there, and I think we've covered this before, I don't think Mike and I, we worked together a lot, and we were pretty much both like, we're doing our job and we're doing our thing, and no reason to really be evil to this guy for any particular reason, because he doesn't seem to be, a guy that I would do that with. But I wasn't, anybody who was at the end base can comment. I was sort of like, I wasn't there for the politics and all that. I was just trying to get my job done, and I was just, however I could do that. If you didn't help me get my job done, I really just didn't have any dealings with you at all.
I think that the people who have been through it forgive easier than the people who have not. I generally find that anybody who I had interactions with when I was in the Sea Org or in Scientology, they're very, very, very forgiving, because they look at themselves and they go, yeah, and I did stuff that I'm not proud of either, and I wasn't who I really am.
Yeah.
And there are some people who are outside of that circle who seem to constantly bring up,
why haven't you talked to this?
Why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? Why?
You're just like, where do you come from? How do you, why do you even have a say in any of this? Yes, I know what you're talking about. And that was another thing I was thinking about when we were talking about Marty and all talking about the fair game stuff that they do to us. We worked with David Miscavige directly for decades. The fair game stuff they do on the internet is almost like just another Sea Org member writing dribble on the internet. So all the horrible things they say about us, those things were said directly to our face for years and years and years. Yeah. So it's sort of like we've been inoculated. We've
had our vaccinations.
Yeah, David Miscavige inoculated us before we even left. So the fact that they kind of took everything that we had to, lose, they took that away afterwards. It was just like, okay, you did this. You did this. Fatty bath bomb. Okay. Oh, farty bath bomb.
Farty bath bomb.
Well,
Michelle Carpenter.
That.
Hello.
I'm not sure if that means something. Maybe that's when you get an FB out of the Sea Org. You get a farty bath bomb.
It's her nickname for Marty Rathbun.
Farty bath bomb. Oh, that's great.
Bath bomb. Wow. How did I not see that one?
Mark.
Rosalind C. Is it weird to audit a spouse?
Yes, completely. Yes, it is. Marty should not have audited Mosey. That is against.
Yeah, we're still all here. This is inside voice.
I feel like auditing any family member is weird. My mom audited me when I was a child, and it's just weird. Like you don't want to be audited by family members. It's like having your mom be your therapist. No, that's not how it works. You don't, or your husband be your therapist. We don't therapize each other.
Yes, but especially when there's a romantic element, it's actually firmly not forbidden. It's supposed to be forbidden, so it's wrong. Right. But Christy, I shared your experience. My mom was trying to audit me when I was 6. Yeah, and I was like, I don't want auditing. I'm fine. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I learned that if you refuse auditing, that makes you a bad person.
Right.
And that's one of the traits of a suppressive person, is that they refuse Scientology auditing. That is an actual.
It's very weird to be audited by your mom.
Of a suppressive.
I had a lot of auditing from my mom. It was weird. It makes your brain, and you think all these weird things, and you feel all like, oh, does she know this? What about that? It like messes up your relationship.
Are you ready for this, Christy?
Yeah.
I would like to acknowledge that was bypassed, and that it was weird being audited by your mother.
Don't make it
Thanks,
weird,
Mark.
honey. Don't make it weird.
A true man of God will ask for forgiveness from the people he has wronged. I know you will give it to him and you will all find peace. Yeah, that's kind of what that's kind of the silly part of this is we've never ever talked about this in a video.
Right.
And meanwhile, Marty's been doing videos and posts and we're sort of just like, whatever, it sucks. Come on. So finally, now that he's gotten a new job, he's moved on to spiritual guidance. We're like, okay, good. Let's talk about the other chapter that Marty did. And this is where we get up to speed.
So, so now in perpetuity, anytime anyone asks, what about Marty Rathbun? We're going to
refer them to this.
Watch the
exactly.
video.
Because it comes up.
We forgive
all
Marty.
The time.
I do not wish Marty ill.
Nope, we forgive him.
It saddens me to see what he's been pushed
Reduced
to. Yeah, exactly.
We missed the friendship. We had a friendship. He was we wish him the best.
Now, Jolene said, Behind the Bastards did a great 4-parter on LRH. Oh, wow. Yeah, they've already been there on that one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. But we could do a 4-parter on Dave. No worries. Rural SD Lawyer. Wow. Hey, Rural SD Lawyer. I haven't seen you in here in a while. Always interesting, always entertaining, always educational. You are doing the greatest public service in the entire world by bringing light to evil. Why, thank you.
Wow.
That was a very, very kind, very generous. Thank you for that, Rural
Thank
SD
you,
Lawyer.
Rural SD Lawyer. Always great to see you.
Mrs. Rush is back. Cults make people do crazy things. It's easy to forgive when you both know the truth because you know the gaslighting that went on. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yes.
And that's why when people, sorry, is somebody in there who's touching stuff?
Not
Hands
me.
off computers. Tamara says, so glad to see Mike doing good. Glad to see you all tonight. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you.
I was mind wiped.
You had Tamara's comment up.
Yeah. Here we go.
Don't forget Tamara.
Wow. Mrs. Rush again. Thanks, Mrs. Rush. She's really, I'm glad I showed your chats from last night now. How many who reach OT3 realize that their whole belief system is based on one of Hubbard's sci-fi stories?
Very few.
Yeah, it's not a lot of people. That's the silliest thing when you talk about space aliens to Scientologists, they genuinely have no idea what you're talking about. It's literally the internet doesn't know. And that's another thing. If you say body thetan, Scientologist goes, oh, they don't know what they're talking about because in Scientology, we just call that a thetan. And so in all the lower levels of Scientology, you hear thetan all the time, and that's your thetan, your own thetan. And it's when you get to OT3, you find out about these other guys, these space cooties.
But I have explained many times that when you get to OT3 and you read those materials in Hubbard's scrolling handwriting, and if you go, well, this is weird, this is just really weird, the standard response is, well, you don't have to believe it. What does the e-meter say? And if it reads on the e-meter, then it's going to, you get the certainty that, well, maybe there's something here and that I don't really understand, and that the great man had insights that I didn't have and couldn't possibly have. So there is not a lot of people that just literally walk away from Scientology when they get exposed to OT3, because that material and the answers to the incredulous looks and thoughts of people is well grooved in.
Yep. And that indoctrination in regards to what the e-meter says is from the moment you walk in the door with the pinch test and recall the moment of the pinch and you watch the needle fall, and that literally is reinforced over and over and over and over, probably millions of times by the time you reach that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
April in Amsterdam says, did Mitch make any of the Marty videos? That's a good question. I didn't ask him.
Ask him next time. I don't think so, but I don't know for sure.
He might know about him at least. I mean, somebody shot him.
He will know. Rachel knew that they were shot by SMP.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I never talked to anybody.
She wasn't involved, but
when they came out, we were just like, oh yeah, that's a gold video. Like I was like, I even
So
recognized one of those props.
lamps.
Like
That lamp was in the background of one of the
yeah,
other
I was like,
POW
I
videos.
was like, whoever dressed this messed up. This is not supposed to be there.
I just like your BSM label, brown suit Marty.
Yeah. Kisha
Brown
says
jacket, Marty.
Brown
BJM.
jacket Marty, BJM. Yes, right.
Kisha says Kish like fish. Oh, yeah, there you go. And I was going to say Keisha, and I said Kish, so I lucked out on this one. Wonder if Marty left blog up as a slap in the face to COS. Thoughts? I think the blog had to be left up, otherwise the lawyers might have come circling pretty good because
And
he
also,
left.
yeah,
Because
and
he
also
left it up.
leaving up. Yeah, leaving it up means that Marty has destroyed himself. He has both sides of the argument. So he has by leaving it up, he is 100% nullified as a player on the chessboard.
Right. But there was a second reason. He left it up because he never admitted that he settled with Scientology.
Yeah,
He has walked this weird line of I'm not commenting. You're all speculating, but you don't know what really happened, but never actually denying that he took any money or any money.
Right.
No money went to Marty Rathbun. I guarantee you that. It was put into a trust for their son and this and that, and it's paid out over X number of years if there's any money involved. But
the way I was going to say, the way they do this, it's all time released. So
yes, exactly.
They say you're going to get, I'm just using a generic thing. You're going to get $10 million. You're going to get $500,000 for every year for X amount of years, as long as you play your part of the bargain. And if you don't, it all disappears, and you don't get that. The second you break the rules, then that's when we're done. You don't get any more payments. And they've done this with L. Ron Hubbard's family. And this is a normal thing that Scientology knows how to play this game when it comes to paying people to be quiet.
Right.
To keep them under control.
Yep.
Robert Watson says the generic term for auditing your spouse is called divorce.
Spot on.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Completely.
Salty Beach Girl Lori says, you four are amazing. MC squared BTs activate.
Yay.
Okay. Thank you for that, Salty Beach Girl Lori. Do you know how Monique and Son are now? Claire and I saw Monique on a baking show on like HGTV or something. We were watching it. It was like, and next we're going to go to Monique on Team 7. And we're like, is that Monique baking a cake on a dessert challenge?
I hope they're doing well.
I do too.
That little boy was super cute.
He was.
I hope they're having fun.
I hope he's doing well.
Mosey had cancer. You know that.
No.
We did hear that from somebody.
Recently?
Yes, recently. And I think that she is okay. I think it was breast cancer, and I think she is okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh.
That's good. I mean, we visited Mosey and Marty in Texas in 2012, I want to say. We stayed with them. Our kids were, I think, 4 and 2.
We fished off the back of their yard in the
we pointed out to them
where
all
I did
houses.
the videos.
Yeah, we pointed out to them the houses that had PI cameras.
Yeah. That was that was also the weirdest thing that I think I ever experienced with Marty. Is he was this guy, doctor, enforcer, OSA. He knew how all their things was.
And he missed it.
We walked to the beach and I'm like, Marty, what's going on over here? And he's like, what do you mean? I go, this guy, that's an OSA camera house. And he was like, what? And I was like, dude, are you so out of it that you don't even know that house is set up with cameras?
Something.
And
nothing happens to me.
Nobody does it except
only Headley is the special guy.
Don't mess with me. Anyway, but yeah, when that happened, we did a road trip and we stopped off at them, and I told Claire, I was like, something's wrong with Marty. I don't know how he doesn't know that house. Like you could see the camera lens and the freaking blinds. I was like, dude, you gotta reevaluate what's going on here, because you're not playing the game.
You gotta wake up and smell the coffee, buddy.
Yes.
Oof.
Yes, exactly.
8 points of R factor.
Out R factor.
I'm an LRH ERA recovering kiddo. He always wrote in Infinity 8, read on from there. Whoa.
Okay,
I don't know what that means.
I think that Marty wrote that.
You think so? I have no idea. Sorry, 8 points out R Factor. You are dropping too much information in such a small super chat, but I appreciate
we were
it.
missing the 8 points of R
Maybe
Factor
there's
there.
another super chat coming from him. Read on.
Yeah.
It's okay. We
in
really
Scientology,
tried.
you're not supposed to go past a misunderstood word, and I don't know what the 8 points of out R Factor are, so that sort of blanks out on everything else after that. Dr. X in the house. Quick clap to Team MC Squared, rushing off to teach lecture on targeted drug delivery systems for cancer and stroke treatment,
Yay.
treating students to cake and it looks
Soda?
like a bomb.
Soda.
Oh, soda for the last of the year. Sending you all virtual cake, beer, wine, cocktails in prep for IES fundraiser. Well, thank you. I don't know. She said virtual. She said virtual. I was like, I don't know, because this could go either way.
well, she also sent me funds to provide 2 signed books for the IES fundraiser.
Oh,
yes, and
amazing.
she sent us a whole funds for a whole list of giveaways for the IAS fundraiser. So we'll have some Davy dolls, some bobbleheads, some SP bracelets, all kinds of good giveaways. Yes.
No, Marty R is running for city councilman in Clearwater on Chad's channel.
That's okay.
Joke. That's Clearwater Chad being cheeky. Vanessa Winberry. Hi, guys. Fellow SP here. Loving all the SP TV channels I've found and what you all are doing. Mark, I love your book. Mike, yours is in the mail. Can't wait to read yours, Claire. Love all. Thanks for everything you do. Well, thank you, Vanessa. That was very substantial in terms of like hitting everybody and taking it, all of us.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Sarah S. Leah said COS had evidence of him abusing his son before the adoption was finalized, and that's why they were able to get him to do what he did. Kid, okay. Yeah, no, I think it was that there was a possibility that could happen because he had been arrested for the punching the horse.
That was what Scientology was saying. That's not what Leah said.
Yeah,
and I promise you, Leah has never said that.
Yeah. So I think that was their that was their planned and stated attack method, and they told Marty this. It wasn't like they said, you're gonna do this or we're gonna do this, and he was like, okay. We don't know what the this is and the that's were, but that's about what we know.
Yep.
Okay, Amy, that quote, Thomas, is not from the Bible. I know. I'm sorry.
We've been educated. Tonight.
Oh, here we go. You. Matt was the first person Marty reached out to in 2008. We wish him well. There you go. See, that we're not trying. That's another thing. Sometimes people are like, you guys should protest the Scientology. You should do this, or you should yell out at the staff. The staff are sort of in the same kind of victim boat as the people that pay money to Scientology. They're all just being used. And when they're done with them, they just throw them away like trash. So we want to reach out like these channels, and we've been, Michael attested this as well. We're now getting contacted by family members of Sea Org members so that they can figure out a very calm and peaceful way to speak with these people so that they can kind of know that there's a place for them to be and stuff like that. I think we have to err on the side of compassion with these people instead of anger. And in Scientology, when someone attacks you, like that's a suppressive, you immediately are supposed to block everything they say.
Yeah. So. Let me just share an amazing story. So at the spshop.com, we have shirts fashioned somewhat after the whole Curious promo from Scientology, where we have Curious, and on the back we have this amazing SP logo designed by Mike Brown and a QR code for the foundation website. Well, a woman wore one of these shirts to Disney World a few days ago, and somebody scanned the QR code and came up to her and asked her, and it turned out the person asking the questions has a brother who's been in the Sea organization for 10 years who is utterly miserable. And so she said, just contact the Aftermath Foundation. So I'm just saying, you never know who our message is reaching.
Yeah.
We are here for whoever wants to get out of Scientology. We're here to help. And that's just an amazing indicator to me of the reach that SPTV is having.
Yep.
Awesome. Donna Rose says, when might we see the next Aftermath story? Well, we help. We help people all the time. And the ones that are willing to tell their story or have their story told, then we'll tell it. And so we are working on one of those right now. And as many people that we help that want to tell their story, we'll help also tell the story. But that's not a requirement or a condition of the Aftermath helping somebody that they have to tell their story. Right. We can help them. They can get out of Scientology. They can start a new life, and no one will ever know if they don't want them to know. And that's fine with us as well. We actually started the Aftermath years and years before any of us were doing anything like this on YouTube. So it's just a weird byproduct that's sort of come out of it, that people want people to know how they were helped. Yes. Andrea Bear says, being an advisor spiritual, isn't that a problem for Scientology? I think that's how, whatever he's doing is obviously not part of the deal that they made. So he's sort of doing whatever he can do. Yes. I think he just misses the community, and he misses being able to talk to people and help people. And that part of him needs to do that. That's what I personally think.
He wants to be a guru.
Lathanda Grocklinger. Sending love to you all. It is horrible to lose a dear friend like that. Such a loss and betrayal hurts, no matter how the loss came about. Thank you for that, Lathanda. That's very accurate. Maria de Jesus Catira says, Thomas in the Bible, aka Doubting Thomas, who had to stick his fingers into the wound that killed Jesus because he didn't believe Christ after his return, after he was crucified. Significant? I guess that is why, maybe that's why Marty picked that as one of the things. I don't know.
There's a lot on that one. Not an expert.
I'm just going to say,
that.
I'm not sure why Marty was quoting Thomas Jefferson and Nas in the same article on his blog either, but I'm sure he had some method to his madness.
Yeah.
Mrs. T. Rush. It's pronounced Rush. Thanks all.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Figured it out.
Thank you, Mrs. T. Rush.
Ms. Pillow, if COS is being driven by if COS is being driven
by nuts.
Yeah.
Well,
they both work.
That's true too.
Nuts by SPTV. Let's be honest, that's not a very long drive.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Pillow. I'm
one sorry. Of our friends.
We've mentioned this before too. If you're watching this and you're new to all this, there is about 50 channels doing Scientology content right now. I'm pretty sure you could just watch SPTV all day, every day if you started right now, and you might go to the end of the year and not run out of videos. I mean, you still have hundreds and hundreds of hours of video. So yeah, Scientology is not having fun with this whole thing. Michelle Carpenter, Eminent Trouble Source. This is a request to see Mike and Christie on a game of werewolves. Again, Claire can't apologize for killing you. We played a game. If you want to look at that, it's a game we played on Kelly Copter's channel, Werewolves.
It was fun. It was
like a Halloween kind of thing.
So you get assigned a role of, you're either a citizen, there's 2 werewolves, there's a medium and a doctor, and the werewolves know who they are, but nobody else knows who they are. And
knows who the werewolves are.
Yeah. So I called Mitch rolled in, and he had an anti-werewolf light behind him, which he proudly announced. So I first said, well, like anyone who shows
there's
up
a video you guys can watch.
Light.
Otherwise, Claire's just going to tell the entire video. It was
That's
an hour and a half long.
I'm almost done. Anyway, Michelle killed me at the last round, which meant the werewolves won.
Yes.
So it's all good. It was a great experience.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, it would be very fun.
Metalhead. Why was LRH or DM sending spies and not simply exteriorized Thetans? Also, if anyone actual powers, he would be well known. That would be a big deal. How can you believe in supernatural stuff? Well, I'm telling you, if you every single one of the people in this video grew up inside Scientology. So we didn't know anything different. We didn't know what everybody else was being taught because we weren't there. So we know what Scientologist kids were being taught. And even then, I was just working. I didn't give a 2 toots about any of that space aliens or any of that. And I didn't even know about it. There was a contractor that asked me, you guys are believing about space aliens? And I was like, dude, what are you talking? I literally laughed in his face. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? I was like, I don't know any space aliens. And I don't think any of the other people that work here are space aliens. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, when I broke my leg and I was getting physical therapy out in town in Hemet, one time the physical therapist was like, is it true that you guys have machine guns in the golf course? I'm like, not that I know of.
Doris Azevedo, super sticker. Thank you for that, Doris. I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Doris.
Oh, here we go. Jolene Harris. Xenu is my fur baby, showing off the new kitty.
Nice.
Awesome. There you go. LRH always wrote Infinity 8, but Infinity sideways.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
logo. That
There
was
was,
the logo.
I do know that.
Books 08, 880.
That was a big.
808.
That's
Yeah.
a whole story that Jeff Hawkins could tell, but every
Yes.
single Scientology book had a very specific cover, and each one of those covers is one of the pictures that you would get shown by Lord Xenu and his henchmen when you would go to the relearning place to get reprogrammed and hypnotized about Christ and the trains and the space people and all this stuff. So if you want to know what the pictures are that you got shown, just look on the internet and look at all the different Scientology book
Look
covers.
at the old covers.
The old covers, but the new covers still also have some of that stuff.
They
in
have
them.
a bit, but not as much as the old ones.
But the
They've
old
got
covers,
snakes and guys in space helmets and locomotives and the guy eating the drumstick, the gorilla eating the drumstick and all that stuff.
Yeah. L. Ron Hubbard very, very specifically said exactly what each picture was to be because he knew what the pictures was. They show at the programming, the machine.
At the drive-in, at the Xenu drive-in.
At the
programming
Xenu drive-in.
station.
Oh, that's a great merch. Hold on, I gotta write that
The
one down.
implant station.
Xenu implant station drive-in. Okay.
And like me and Mark, we didn't do any OT levels in Scientology, so we never heard about any of this stuff until after we left. Like I never heard a single peep about aliens or any of this. I never knew anything. So
and if they would have told me, I'm pretty sure I would have came up with the same BT's Activate idea because that I'm all about that.
But the thing is not every Scientologist knows about this because they don't get to those levels, and so when they
majority don't.
Right, the majority don't. So all the media and the whole wide world that knows about that knows way more than the Scientologists.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. Michael Mills, super chat. Thank you for that, or super sticker, whatever they call it. Amy Scobie said, and my book giveaways too. Yes, we're going to have some Amy Scobie Abuse at the Top books to give away as well. We're almost down to the last ones here. And in an effort to keep Louis Farrakhan involved with our church, I'm going to add bow ties to the Sea Org uniforms. Well, that's a good idea, David.
Right in with the bellhop.
Yeah, that'll work. You know, David Miscavige has been super chatting in every video we're doing these days. So, you know, we may turn this thing around, guys, if he's sending us $4.99 in the super chat. You know,
and
peace is on the horizon.
You know, Dave is very involved with those uniforms.
He really is. He does know. I mean, oh my goodness. I'm not we can't
even go there.
We can't even start a whole new one. Salty Beach Girl, you have such loving, forgiving hearts. Love you all. Well, thank you. We try.
Thank you.
You know, we're just humans.
Lori.
We screw up sometimes and do silly things, but you know, we try. Brett Grace, while you guys were in COS, did anyone try and get you out?
I wish. I used to hope and pray that someone would come pick me up, some long lost family member.
I don't
Never
think anybody
happened.
tried to get me out.
No.
My dad did let me know on a regular basis that I ever needed anything. And he had a 1-800 number. And so that I could always call him toll free, no matter where I was or where. And it was also kind of, you could call a 1-800 number on the property. Sometimes there was a period where you didn't need to get okay, because it was no toll and only tolled calls had to go through reception. So I could actually call him and talk to him on the phone. And then they found out and they were like, yeah, you can't do that no more.
But didn't you call that 1-800 number when you escaped?
I did. Yeah, because it's the only number I knew. And I was like,
amazing.
oh, I know. It's the only phone number I knew besides my own, Nextel radio phone that I had, and 1-800 I want help, the Scientology base hotline if you need to get.
Yeah.
DP Never In. Just searched Behind the Bastards. They did a 2-series on Hubbard, a 3-parter in 2018 and a 2-parter in 2019 about his last days. Wow,
they're
that
really
is
on the ball,
amazing.
those guys.
Yeah, the Behind the Bastards. I've never even heard of this thing.
Me either.
That's amazing. Okay, well, we did it, guys. We got to the end. I'm just gonna go through here and make sure I didn't miss anybody. Let's do, while we do that, let's do we showed this yesterday. I just want to kind of pump up the jam on this. MarkBunker2024.com. Mark Bunker is running for Clearwater, running for re-election in the Clearwater City Council. And the fact that he is there is Clearwater's only chance to get free of Scientology eventually. And so we want to make sure that he gets reelected, and you can support that effort by going to markbunker2024.com. And I think we should reach out to Mark, Claire, and see if he wants to do a video, and we can talk about when he edited the Jason Begay video on my editing system at Burbank and at my shop. And we can go into all kinds of crazy behind the scenes stories.
Perfect. Sounds good.
And then if you haven't subscribed to either of our channels, please, if you're watching on Mike's channel, like and subscribe. That would be amazing. And if you're watching on the Blown for Good channel, please like and subscribe. We're not, per YouTube, 80% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed to these videos. And I don't know what it is. Is it on your channel like that too, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, 86% not subscribed. I'm not even sure how that works exactly, but either way.
For OSA and all you Scientologists out there, we do not share our mailing lists. There's no cost to subscribe. You'll just get notifications
from YouTube.
There's no exposure. Yes, exactly. So don't be scared. Free. You too can subscribe and become more educated, and we can help you get out.
I thought you were going to say to OSA and all those who are being forced to watch this as part of your job,
sock accounts.
You can reach out to the Aftermath Foundation, and we will help you.
Yes, that too. That too. We would love to help you. Please.
Yes.
And you don't even have to tell your story
by making us help you escape. That would
we might
nothing would be more thrilling.
We might as well put this up because you can support the Aftermath Foundation by going to theaftermathfoundation.org. You can sign up to be a volunteer. You can find out you can sign up to get on our mailing list. So when a new series or a new program comes out on somebody that we've helped, you'll get notified. If we have new merch or new products that support the foundation, you'll know about that. And then also bobbleheads and SP bracelets can be gotten from the spshop.com. And the SP shop, all of the things that we sell in the SP shop go to support the Aftermath Foundation. So all these things, it's all, we're trying to make this all work together and make everything make sense.
Yes.
But I think that's good. I think
Mark,
we did it, guys.
Mark, you are a scientist.
I am not a scientist.
You are a scientist. Look at what you just did. You put all that stuff up on the screen. You are a scientist.
I just clicked some buttons. I mean, come on, let's not pretend. I did fix your microphone before the stream. I will take credit for that. Anyway,
you're a scientist.
Remotely. Anyway, thank you everybody who joined us today. Claire and I are going to do a special video coming soon. I'm not exactly sure when, but we are going to tell of the very first person that we broke out of the international headquarters and how we did it and how the whole thing happened blow by blow. No one has ever, we've never actually done a video where we tell the entire story of how this happened. And
nobody had ever done that before either, folks.
Yeah.
So it was groundbreaking. Yes.
It's a good story.
Yes.
So we're going to click your bell notification if you want to find out when that's going to hit the streets. And then otherwise, I think we're good. We did it. We got everything. Thank you, everybody who commented. Thank you for everybody who joined.
And we always go twice as long as we plan to.
Exactly.
That's okay. That's just because we love you guys so much. And it's always a pleasure hanging with you.
Oh,
and to the rest of you 2,000 people out there, we love you too.
and somebody was commenting when I put up my end video, there's white boxes there. That's because we're doing this live and I have to put those videos in on YouTube after the video goes live. But because we're doing a live stream with us, we're going to play our special friendly outro.
And we're in our final 2 minutes here, folks, just as a reminder.
And I do have to duck out because I got to get ready for the next stream with Mitch. So I'm going to let you guys wrap this one up. Claire, make sure to play the outro and do all the stuff that I normally do. Don't be a barbarian. Thank you. Bye.
Have I ever been a barbarian? Oh my gosh. Come on.
No, you're the least barbarian person I know, Claire. Honestly.
Just about now. So awesome. See you later, guys. Thanks again for doing this with us. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Yes.
And give me a minute here. I'm
Barbarian,
so
don't be a
fired. I'm
barbarian.
so fired. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out here. Oh
The
my
video's on the
goodness.
brand. The video should be under
I
brand.
know. I'm looking for the outro. I don't have it.
There's no outro.
It's okay,
me look.
Claire.
Okay.
The only
well,
person in the whole world that cares about this
is Mark.
is Mark.
I know.
We won't
Okay.
tell him. We won't tell him.
We won't tell him, and he'll never go
Okay.
back and watch it.
It's our little secret. Amazing, but guys, I'll hit end stream. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Our little secret.